You would think, in this modern age of internet, there would be ample tutorials and straightforward guides on how to apply for engineering PhDs. I had to spend half a year to even figure out how to apply to one. The only people I knew to reference were the super smart people with 3.8 GPAs whose entire life was based on engineering. So I was quite perplexed. Due to this perplexion, whereas usually people apply to 4 to 5 programs, I applied to 16. So from this experience, I can hopefully culminate it into a tutorial for you. Disclaimer, I was a mechanical engineering undergraduate and I applied for mechanical engineering for a PhD. I do not know how much different other engineering programs are to apply to. You can get into any program you want, you just have to justify it as well as possible to your professor. I met physics and geology majors who applied to mechanical engineering and they got in. They just wrote a silly little essay explaining to the professor how their study is related to the lab that the professor is in, why they want to do a mechanical engineering program, and what exactly they can offer to that lab. A PhD is basically you getting paid minimum wage to develop science and getting promised a degree at the end of it. You work under your professor who is in charge of your entire life for 4 to 6 years, and you do research in an area that they specialize in so that they can guide you. The degree is typically 4 to 6 years, 4 being if the professor prioritizes getting students out as fast as possible and the research is less intense, and 6 if the professor wants a little bit more from you. The first 2 years are classes and a little bit of research, where you are considered a PhD student, and the last 2 years are just research and you trying to leave, where you are a PhD candidate. A reoccurring theme is that your professor determines your sanity, so choose wisely. Bad professors made my peers quit or switch labs, even though they were very interested in the subject. Considering all of this, admission to a PhD program is a 2-step admission process. You must be accepted by both the school department and the professor. The school department promises you to give you a degree with the school name on it, and the professor gives you money to eat and a research group to do research in. In order to get in, you must convince the department and the professors that you can do 2 things. 1, that you're able to figure out complex things independently because the research that you will be doing is likely things that were never done before, and 2 is that you can communicate your results well to peers and scientists as well as are a pleasant person to be around. You might already know why you're doing a PhD and what is available to study. I didn't know, and if you don't know either, no worries. Here are some reasons why you would want to consider a PhD. The first big thing is that it's free. Unlike a master's or a bachelor's degree, they actually pay you to both study and do research, which is great if you have monetary restrictions. The second thing is you don't have to worry about your PhD expiring in the future, as it will be the highest degree possible to be attained. The next thing is a mindful career choice. By being able to spend 4 more years thinking about what you want to do, you will have ample resources, people, and just connections to be able to figure out what exactly you're interested in beginning your career in. And the last thing is that you will be surrounded by cool and ambitious people. You might be asking, what is even available to study in a mechanical engineering PhD? And that is a valid question because mechanical engineering is a very broad field. I went through a lot of labs while searching, and it boils down to this infographic that I created. I sorted the fields I saw into categories to the best of my ability and rated them by competitiveness from my experience. Some topics I saw include stuff like mechanics, materials, which is sponsored quite well, biology-based studies, which also has a lot of funding, energy studies, heat and fluids, vehicles, where space is quite competitive, manufacturing, and mechatronics, where robotics is also quite competitive. Whatever area of study you choose, there are 2 subcategories of the way that you can research it. The first one is theoretical/computational, where you do a lot of computer simulations and math-related stuff for your research. The second one is experimental, where you actually come into the lab and touch things. For the sake of clarity, Let's say you want to apply to fall 2021 and it is currently winter break 2020. Here's the full timeline I made in Canva. Ideally, this would be your timeline. However, life is not always perfect. This schedule just seems to be the most sane way to do it. At the start of spring of the year before graduation, that will be the second semester of junior year, you will ideally want to know that you're pursuing a PhD. At that time, check that you will be able to satisfy the prerequisites for the PhD application. Specifically, have a research position, have a GPA of 3.0 or more, and have 3 people in mind to write you letters of recommendation. And if the school that you want to get into requires the GRE, take the GRE or study for it. Research is arguably the most important part of your application in an undergraduate research position. The PhD Admission Council likes that you have previous experience, so it's easier to justify why you want to do a PhD. You could say, I already did this before, and I want to do more. Ideally, you will know exactly what you're interested in and join the lab that you want to do as a PhD student. I personally did not, so I just went with a professor that I knew was kind and was available to help, which happened to be a lab in metal 3D printing. However, it does not matter too long as you can justify why you want to go into another field when you apply to a PhD. When doing the undergraduate research in your lab, be sure to remember what you did. This is how you will be advertising yourself to PhD professors. In terms of how long you should be doing undergraduate research before applying to a PhD program, I personally did mine for 6 months before applying, but I do know people who started literally the fall of applying. I don't really recommend that, but it does work. There are also people who did research the summer before applying. I also know people whose internship at NASA or post-bachelors research substituted as research experience. As long as you can justify it as research, it works. The earlier in undergraduate you start research, the better chance you have of convincing your professor and get into labs that are more competitive. But it's also understandable if you didn't know you want to do a PhD until recently. I personally didn't know I wanted to do a PhD until junior year. Ideally, you want a 3.0 or more GPA for most schools, a 3.5 for amazing schools. The very rock bottom what I saw is 2.8. I had a 3.2 when applying and did good. This is a very awkward part of your process, but it is necessary to do. For your PhD application, you will need 3 recommendation letters from professors or managers in engineering fields to say how absolutely amazing of a worker you are. I will talk more about it later, but requesting those in a timely manner is very important for your mental health, and it will mess you up if you aren't careful. The GRE is the SAT for the PhD. Not many schools require it, but if the school you want to go does, make sure to take it. I don't know much about it because I didn't take it. Ideally, this is the last summer before your graduation date if you plan to start in fall of the next year. This is a good time to choose schools and professors. You might already know where you want to apply because a professor recommended it, or you're always fascinated with certain research, but if you're applying as a please just someone take me, I don't know what I'm doing, like I definitely did not do, please see next slides. The first thing you do is make a list of schools that you want to apply to. Here's a list of schools that are strong in mechanical engineering to get you started. I also attached the full Excel in the description. After I compiled a list of schools, I filtered which ones I can actually get into with my credentials, which took 2 main factors into consideration: the minimum undergraduate GPA they require to apply, and does the department require the GRE. Most schools have a minimum of a 3.0 GPA. There are some that require less or more, but you have to see what's the recommended for that school. Regarding the GRE, as stated before, it is getting obsolete, but some schools do still require it. Make sure they don't require it if you aren't taking it. Now that you have a list of schools that you want to apply to and know you're qualified for, you will also have to find professors to take you in. Why would you want to find specific professors at university? Why not just apply to the school? Well, because research professors are the head of their laboratories, and if a laboratory wants you in most schools, that grants you automatic admission. It is very important to find labs that you like at the school, contact the professor, and specify that lab in your admission essay to get into that school. Now, it wouldn't be so bad if positions were advertised on one clean page on the school website, but guess what? They are not. The way that you look for schools is by visiting their websites or contacting them via email. When looking for a laboratory check, are they actually looking for new PhD students? And what are the credential requirements for an incoming PhD student? Does it look like they want a 3.9 GPA in previous publications, or are they just looking for someone who is willing to learn? Whether or not they're looking for people will determine whether or not your email will end up in the trash can. Once again, if they're not looking for students, they will 99% of the time ignore your email. But how do you find out if they're looking for students, I hear you ask? Well, the most accurate way is to email them, but a lot of professors won't reply because they don't see the email, as it is buried among the pile of a billion other emails. And if you're short on time, you can't afford to spend days emailing them. The way I did it was looking for advertised positions on their website. Hold please for the process. Right, so here we are on Google. We look up the University of Utah, which I'll be using as an example. We look up the mechanical engineering faculty. We see the first result, faculty and lab directory. We click on that, and we see all the people associated with that department. They all have a website associated with them, which is their lab website. We click on all of them. And then we visit each one. We are looking for any advertisement of open positions. And here we are. Here we see one to prospective students. They are looking for some students, which is great for us. We put it in a new folder of bookmarks we call open PhD positions. And we drag it in there for later revisiting. Now we look again for another opening positions. And here we go, an opening positions tab. They are looking for students. We put it in the bookmarks tab. And we continue on our journey. Do we see any open positions here? Anywhere? Do we see them? It does not look like it. Great. Okay, moving on to the next one. Any other advertisement? Oh, look at that. Was that in red at the bottom? Positions available? That's so great. That's amazing. We put that in the folder and we continue. Any positions here? Any positions? Do we see any? Yes, here they are. Research positions available. Insane, amazing. Okay, but we do that all for all of them. We check if they're looking for students. We keep going. We keep. Okay, and then you have all these options to email and look into and have the professors look into your application. So now you have a list of schools and professors. Then your next step is to email the professors and ask them to hire you. In your email, your goal is in minimum words possible. Tell them who you are, why you want to be part of the research, and what you can contribute. Here is an email template I attempted to create from my culmination of emails. Most professors receive funding in the middle of fall, which is around September, so prepare your emails for around that time and continue emailing them until December, which is the deadline for most applications. If they are interested in reviewing your application, include their name in the application and statement of purpose. It will make it more likely that your documents will come to that professor and they will consider you for their lab position. For PhD applications, most deadlines fall on December 15th. Most slight variations include December 1st and December 5th. There are also late decision deadlines in March, but those reduce your chances of getting in. In order to apply to the school, you need to send an official application to the department you want to receive a degree from, which should be identical to your selected lab's department. Make 100% sure your professor is from the department you are applying to, or else the department won't know who you are talking about. When submitting the application, it will be first read by the department heads, and then redirected to the professors you included in your application. Also, fun fact, there is no Common App for graduate school applications. You have to find out where each one is located on their website and fill out the same information over and over and over and over. Regarding the anatomy of the application itself, it has three most important sections: the statement of purpose, your resume, and your 3 letters of recommendation. As mentioned before, the SOP, or the Statement of Purpose, is an essay talking about why you want to do the PhD. When everyone has similar skill levels, this essay will urge the department and the professors to hire specifically you. To write a good Statement of Purpose, I created this template based on what I know. Your first paragraph is your introduction and include what area of study you want to join. The second paragraph is your previous undergraduate research as a summary. Your third paragraph is an example of an engineering task you did independently and preferably an instance of you communicating well or resolving some kind of conflict with your teammates. The fourth paragraph could be an internship experience. And in your last paragraph, summarize what you wrote real quick, list out the professors you want to work with, and discuss why you want to do a PhD. Be sure you stylize the essay in an easy-to-read format because they will scan it for about 5 seconds and they need to quickly understand what is going on. Also, include why you want to do a PhD in the last paragraph to assure the professors that you did not decide to randomly apply because you just want to continue school. Common reasons for pursuing a PhD, in case you don't know what to write there, is wanting to be a professor, wanting to work in national labs, or wanting to lead advanced research in a company that requires a PhD. Another unique reason that I heard from one person was because they wanted to be an astronaut, which I thought was a pretty epic response. There are many guides on making resumes, and to be honest, I'm not sure which one is the ultimate correct resume structure, but I got hired with what I had, so I guess it was okay. An academia-oriented resume is slightly different from industry ones. This means putting research to the front of the resume, including any publications, add skills with lab instruments, and other academia-based accomplishments. In my resume, I personally emphasize legibility and prettiness, because if it does not look appealing, people are less likely to read it. Be sure the headings are easily navigable, font is legible, and it is a standardized resume, by which I mean it is not one of the ones that look like infographics. There was a video study that shows that these pretty resume templates get rejected more often than bland, black and white resumes. You will need 3 letters of recommendation for 99% of universities, and they could be either from professors or work managers from your field. I did mine with my research professor, my engineering internship manager, and my senior design professor. Figure out who you will be asking at the very start of your fall semester and notify them as soon as you start the semester. Be sure to give them side direction of why you want exactly them to write it and what you want covered about you. They might ask you also to write it yourself. I'll include a template for that. As soon as you have your list of schools and start your applications, the first thing you do is send the recommendation requests and notify them via email. There's a section for that in the application, so fill the application enough to unlock it and send those requests out. Here's an email I sent out describing which schools to give recommendations to and my instructions for the recommenders. Congratulations! You applied to your schools, found laboratories you're interested in, and got recommendations in on time. You can expect universities to get back to you starting December, peak in February/March, and end April 1st*. If you got an admission December/January, you're on top of the waitlist and oftentimes are invited to tour the school for about 3 days to match with professors. Definitely go to the tours, the school pays for it, and the professors are more likely to want you when they see you in person. I personally didn't want to travel, but it was such a luxury experience, I do recommend it. Also, it was very insightful to see peers and just complain about the application process. Get yourself out there on your trips and pack your schedule with professor meetings. You are the door-to-door vacuum salesman for those 3 days. For most schools, if you are not admitted immediately at the start of February, you're on a wait list and are waiting for some big-brain people to deny their offer. But as soon as the smart kid in front of you in line rejects their offer and goes to MIT instead of the school you applied to, you get the position. You can often email the department and ask your location on the waiting list if you really wanted to. It's okay to have multiple offers, just be sure to only accept one of them. If you're given multiple offers, the best way to choose from them is to ask current graduate students of the lab how they like it there. Ask as many as you can, and if you don't know their email, request it from the professors. Good professors like it when you talk to their grad students, so it shows you're interested in their lab. Graduate students are typically very nice and will do their best to help. If you're able to schedule a meeting with the professor, some things you can ask them include: if you're admitted to a school and don't have a professor, what you do is go insane and spam professors from that school. The strategy for this game is email a professor with an interesting question about their lab, then ask them some follow-up questions, ask to meet in a Zoom call with them to discuss the questions further, and then ask to talk with their graduate students. Talk to the students. Then if you still like the lab, after a couple of emails, flat out tell them you want to confirm your interest in joining the lab, and ask them if you can join the lab. If you're not bold with your statement, it is not a great look. You have to fully commit and initiate your interest and desire to be in the lab. Do not wait for them to initiate this. Every lab I got into was because I initiated interest, was direct, and was bold with my statement. If you request to join a lab and a professor agrees with you and likes you, they will send you an offer letter to specifically say, yeah, here are the terms and conditions for the lab, sign here. And it's okay to have multiple offer letters. It is just important that you sign only one. Your deadline is April 15th unless otherwise stated, and be very careful which one you sign, because that will be a headache to get out of. If you need to deny your offer letter, email the professor and send them a nice letter that you got another offer. Here's an example letter, because personally for me it was very heartbreaking to write. Some things I considered on the contract were the minimum GPA requirements, because they will kick you out if it gets lower than that, and the stipend to cost of living ratio in that area. Speed run recap. A PhD is a free graduate school degree that lasts 4 to 6 years, depending on your professor. Unlike undergraduate or master's, you do both school and research at the same time, and they pay you. You need the school and professor to admit you. Your professor determines your entire life and mental state for 4 to 6 years, so choose wisely. To apply, make sure you have a 3.0 or more GPA, research experience, and 3 people to recommend you. Annoy the recommendation people a lot so they can get it in on time. Email professors a lot. Most deadlines are December 15th. Early acceptance letters come out in December and January and may offer you to visit the school for free. Keep emailing professors. Peak offer letters come out in February/March, ending April 1st. The decision deadline for schools is April 15th, usually. So this is pretty much it for the main content. There are some other things I wanted to talk about, starting from just getting accepted into graduate school. From what I saw, there are higher acceptance rates for top tier schools as a graduate student than an undergraduate. There are just less people competing for those spots, so there is a higher chance of you getting into your dream school as a graduate student. Also, if you're interested in comparing how big of a GPA you need to get into a certain school, or demographics for a major, or the admission rates for a certain major, you can look up the graduate admission statistics on the school website sometimes if they have it, but it's pretty useful if they do. When applying, be sure to apply to a broad range of schools. That is, have some safety schools, or as far as the safety school in a PhD might go, some middle tier state schools, and then some of your dream schools or top tier schools. If you apply to the top 20 schools, you will have a less chance of getting into any kind of PhD. Apart from your statement of purpose, you will also need to write some supplemental essays for some schools. I was debating on sharing them, but then I looked back at them and I can't say they had as much quality put into them as the SOP I wrote. All I will say as an overview, just like how I structured it, I had one big disgusting Google Docs where I just did all my essays, and to control F and find what I need to find. And some of the supplemental essays I did were BS'd at 3 in the morning. I'll show examples of the prompts on the screen right now. Feel free to search the internet how people answered these before, and ask grad students or ask ChatGPT. Another thing that I did not do but some other people did was looking for fellowships or scholarships, applying to them. I personally did not have time to do that. I was already suffering with my 10 billion graduate school applications, but then you don't have to worry about the professor funding you. Then you could just choose a project and be like, I already have money. You can just give me a lab to work in, which is pretty cool. In terms of getting a hold of professors, any professor involved in the field of biology seems to be more likely to respond to emails and are more likely to consider students with not a 3.10 billion GPA. They also feel like the most human to talk to for some reason. Materials is the second easiest to get into. As a fun fact, biology and materials are 2 fields that receive the most funding in mechanical engineering, I'm pretty sure. The more theoretical the field of the lab, such as thermodynamics, fluid mechanics, computer simulations, and nuclear engineering, the harder it is to get hold of the professor and get into the lab. Robotics and space professors are on average pretty cool, but since it's such a popular field, there are very few spaces available and therefore extremely competitive. Fee waivers, they exist. Ask for them if you're eligible when applying for schools. If everything is terrible and your recommenders for some reason are having issues submitting recommendations and they're not in on time, you do usually have 2 weeks before the review date by the department of the school to get them in. One last thing, if you have any questions that I didn't answer, can correct me, or want to add some of your own experience, please comment. I will do my best to answer. And this is not for engagement farming. I genuinely want to create some kind of digital footprint of information because there's not much out there. Once again, I really don't proclaim myself as a PhD guru, so if something I said was inaccurate, please feel free to correct me in the comments so others can learn from it.
And that's it. Can you believe it? This has only took 30 minutes. And that took like 6 months of me editing. It's insane. Okay, you got this. Apply for the PhDs that you're supposed to. Have a great day. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna go do other things other than this video and studying for exams because I'm so tired of doing this video. Thank you. Bye, 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 bye.